Hi there, Carrie here, and welcome to all of you new or relatively new students. And that includes even if you're just getting out of therapy, out of theory and into speed building. But I really want to talk about what you don't know that you couldn't possibly know when you're first starting in school. And I've had all kinds of questions like, what kind of machine do I need? Well, you need one with 22 keys, or if you're a voice writer, you need whatever you need. Um, what kind of theory do I need? I don't know. You will find a school to start, and it will be whatever theory they're doing, and embrace that and learn whatever they put in front of you because they all work. Yes, you will hear right short, right fast, right, right to the moon and back, but you'll learn a theory, which is a conceptual idea of how to write certain words and language on your production machine of choice, be it Steno, be it Mask. So stop worrying about what kind of machine. If the keys work, if it does what you need it to do, it'll be fine. You can always upgrade later. I was amazed when I was in school and they weren't even $5,000 machines then, but people who went out and bought brand new machines for, at that time, hundreds of dollars and sometimes upward of 1,000, only to decide 3 months later, this isn't really for me. And then, they'd sell the machine for that price or less. It didn't, that's not the point. It's just having, I was a violinist at one point, and I remember my teacher telling me that only amateurs blame their instrument. So I've kind of always thought about that with my Steno machine too. Only an amateur is going to blame the instrument, the machine that they're writing on. But there are ways to adjust your machine for your kind of tension. I mean, there are some of us who are very light touch writers, and this is going to be mostly you guys for Steno, so I'm sorry if I'm not addressing voice as much as I could or should, but you're going to be in and out of 140 way before Steno people are, and that's okay. That's part of the system. That's part of the process, part of the animal that is learning Steno. But there are those of us who write very, very light with very little movement. There are people who write with their machine angled down, with their machine angled up, straight ahead, with writing with quarters on the back of their hands to make sure they don't move too much. Then there are people like me who for 40 years have been pounders on the machine and lift my hands way too much, move my fingers all over the place. And I'm a merit writer and I've got my RDR and I do real time almost every day for me, but my email is even always realtime@gmail.com because I do real time all the time. And maybe I'm an anomaly. Maybe it was different for me. Maybe my and anatomical makeup is different, but I cross my legs, my machine is too high, I wiggle all over the place, I'm riding up in the air, and I'm gonna knock on wood because I don't have pain and it's never been a problem. And my thinking is if it's not a problem, don't fix it. But for some people, if you start off with good habits of good posture and sitting at your machine in a certain way, you will find what works for you as you're learning the theory that has found you. And then the next thing I want to talk about is how much do you need to practice? Well, you need to practice as much as you need to practice to get it. When you're first starting in school, you are learning with your conscious analytical mind. It wants to understand that, where all the keys are, and it wants to understand what different key combinations mean what. And why do we write that word that way? And why do we not do it a different way? It wants to understand all of that. And it's a very slow analytical process. And your brain learns by repetition, which is why practice is vital. Now, I can tell you stories about people who did not practice as much as I did on a physical machine, but they would meditate, every morning. They would listen to dictation and imagine in their head, without a machine in front of them, without even a practice board, where their fingers were going, and got just about as good a results as people who were pounding on the machine as for hours and hours on end. I'm not saying don't practice as much. I'm just saying certain people have more time in the day than others, and you've got to make the most out of the time that you do have to put concentrated, intentional practice, not just slapping the keys. I did that. I mean, there were times between, I know, 140, 160, 180, 200, where I was just, I'd show up, I'd put the thing on, I just, okay, I did my hour of practice. No, you didn't. No, Carrie, no, you didn't. You slapped the keys for an hour, which is better than not slapping them. But did it give you the results that you were looking for? Did you recognize any problems? Did you solve any problems? Did you make anything easier or better for tomorrow when you show up? No, not if you're not intentionally practicing. And practice with an intent. What is my intent today? Am I going to practice for accuracy? Am I going to practice for speed? Am I going to practice, in theory, am I going to practice for faster recognition of how I write certain things? Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about tests, because a lot of schools don't start tests right away, and some do. Doesn't matter. Just take what is given to you. But please start understanding that a test is just a snapshot in time that day of what you're able to regurgitate quickly. It is not a reflection of who you are. It is not a reflection of your value as a person. It's not even a true reflection of the speed that you're at. Ending the sentence with a preposition, sorry. It's not, because every day you wake up, you're in a different body, in a different mindset, in a different thinking process, in a different position in your life. We have good days and we have bad days. There are good dictations and bad dictations. There are dictations that were easy for me and hard for everybody else. And then, damn it, vice versa. Why did they all pass? And that was really the hardest test I've ever taken, because everybody's different. Because we come with stories from our past which flavor how we think when we're writing. And some of that stuff is triggering on a level so deep that we don't even know we're being triggered, but it will stop us. It will hesitate us in the moment. And we have to get past that. We have to start remembering that we're the channel that the words go through, that this isn't about us. This is about us becoming a proficient writer to be able to capture the record forever. And that's who we are. We are the scribes, the same as, thousands of years ago. This is an honorable lineage. It is the position in society that keeps historical data for generations to come. Because what we do not learn, we are destined to repeat. And who wants to repeat some of the horrible mistakes of our society as a whole from the past? And every day, every job I take, even the ones that if I'm looking at it from a really negative place, it might be like, oh dear God, why are they all suing each other over this? This is so stupid. But it's not. Besides for the fact that it pays my bills and that I'm good at it, and I'm giving them a transcript that will last for the ages. And it is somebody reading this transcript 10 years from now, 100 years from now, they will know what exactly went on in that room without having been there. That's my job. And for somebody, in every job I take, for somebody, and sometimes more than several people, this is the most important day of their life. This is them seeking justice. This is them seeking to be heard, for somebody to hear what they had to go through, or what wasn't fair, or how they have a reason for why they did what they did. It's an important day. These are important things. They don't pay us just because they've got extra money flowing around and, oh yeah, let's pull in a court reporter and pay them some money just because. This is important stuff. This is us capturing the record forever. And that really hit me, it hit home to me. I think I'd been a reporter for probably about 20 years, and I'm, walking down halls of a courtroom. I did court for about 6 years, just long enough for me to know it is not the place for me and my personality. But I was in court, and I'm walking down the hall, and I think it was one of the district attorneys said, "Hey, Carrie, did you see this, latest?" It was like a Supreme, they have the books, they have the appellate books, the Fed books, the state books, for a Court of Appeals and all that. And I thought he was just pulling my leg, and he said, "Yeah, you're the court reporter on this case that's cited in this appellate decision." And I'm like, "What?" And he opens the book and shows me, and there in black and white is my name on a case. And I was just shocked. And then I looked at the case, and it all kind of came back because I was a new reporter, and it was me filling in. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I knew what I was doing writing on the machine, but I didn't know, going to this job, which took me an hour to get to, that I was filling in for one day of a protracted trial. I didn't know what the trial was about. I mean, I didn't even know enough to ask. It was just, somebody wants me to report, I'm going to go do it. And it was a great experience. It was an old courthouse in the California Gold Rush foothills. It was amazing. And as I sat there, barely knowing, okay, that guy's name and then that guy's name and the defendant's name, and there's a woman on the stand. Okay. And I'm writing, and I guess they were in the middle of, cross-examination of the victim. I didn't know that. And she started describing in vivid detail what this man had done to her. And then it was like my poor little baby steno brain clicked on, and I thought, oh, that's the defendant she's talking about. And the description was horrific. And I remember at one point it triggered me bad. It would have been nice to know I was going into a rape assault case. They didn't think that was important for me to know. I would have been able to do it, but I wouldn't have been blindsided. And I, at one point, remember swiveling my chair away from the jury and looking down at the floor, and there were tears coming from my eyes. And I didn't want anybody to have a mistrial because court reporter couldn't keep her shit together. That was the case. It had nothing to do with my reporting, but apparently there was evidence allowed in the case, which was disputed on appeal. And I don't even remember what the decision was, but there I was 20 years later, a transcript I did for one day in a trial that I don't even know how it ended. Oh, well, it must have ended bad for the defendant if they appealed, but wow. So what we do is important, and it is important for the future and for all times. And that is why when, as working reporters, we're out in the field, literally grabbing every single word and interrupting when the words are being compromised on the record, when two people are talking over each other, when there are questions being clipped off by answers, then being clipped off by questions, and you've got a transcript that looks like this with dashes all over the place. If they're going to get a verbatim transcript, it would be nice if it was usable and readable, but that's not my job. I'm just taking down the record. They're making the record, and it's theirs to make. I just wish sometimes attorneys would read what they look like in print, because it ain't always pretty and it ain't always effective, but that's not my job. My job is to capture those words the way they were said, in the sequence they were said, with the proper punctuation, to give the intonation and the inflections that are needed to understand how things were said. So, probably way more than a beginning student needs to know or to have, but let me double back to the beginning. You've chosen a great profession. There will be 10% of you who finish this journey. There will be all of you who learn more about who you are in this journey at whatever point along the way you decide this is or is not for you. And there's no judgment, there's no recrimination. This is not a job for everybody. I've been doing it working since July of 1979. July of 1979. And I have loved it most days. I love my job 95% of the time. There are always those days where somebody is making my job just a little bit harder than it needs to be. And that's exasperating. But I take the good with the bad. Because if you have a job, just a job, and you like it 51% of the time, that's pretty good. I love my job. I love my job 95% of the time. And it pays me well. And it gives me the freedom. And it gives me an opportunity to learn the most amazing things every day. I'm always learning something. I make a joke out of it every day when it's like that little thing that creeps in and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. I learned something today, despite my best efforts not to. And it's a joke every day. I'm hearing a word I've never heard before. I'm learning about a new industry that I didn't know existed, about different episodes in people's lives that I'm grateful I am not experiencing. It's an amazing job. It's an amazing profession. It's an incredible career. I'm so happy for those of you who will be starting soon or have just started and will stay the course regardless of all those times when your brain thinks you should quit. Asks you, this is really what you want to do? And answer it from your heart, not from your head. Don't be logical about this. This is a calling. And if your why, the why you want to do this thing is big enough, strong enough, and you're brave enough, you're going to be one of those reporters out in the field working and loving it. If anybody has any questions, get a hold of me. I'm happy to answer anything I can when I can. So guys, take care, and I will talk to you again soon.